Hola Madridistas, welcome to our preview for the Braga game. We know that every single one of you probably have your minds occupied by the El Clasico, but we still have a game to be had, an away game, and a possible banana skin. But before we get into any of that, let's hear from you, Farooq. Have you had your mind just being occupied by the beautiful ladies of Milan, or are you like actually thinking about the El Clasico, or even FC Braga?
Nice intro, Jacob. I'm not gonna kill the vibes for my lady fans. I'm just gonna keep everything open. And my mind has been occupied by nothing but football and football only.
Oh, wow.
We're not gonna it's easy to be occupied by FC Barcelona, but we're gonna give respect where it's you and respect Sporting Club the Braga as well. So Braga has been what's on my mind, and thinking about how we're gonna handle the game tomorrow. Hopefully, we get to see a really good game.
Right? And Braga is like a very funny thing because when I initially started researching, I thought they'll just be a walkover. I even I talked about this in the which was the preview that we had yesterday, the day before.
The Sevilla game?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, let's just rest every single player for the Braga game, and then just I thought these guys would be a walkover, but then and that the only interesting thing about them was gonna be their stadium. So have you actually looked at their stadium? Any of the pictures?
No, man, I haven't seen that.
So the funny thing about is that usually teams have like goal side stands as well, right? These guys only have stands on both sides of the pitch. So the other empty space is covered by just you can see beautiful mountain views of Portugal. And
Oh,
but still
wow.
like it's still gonna be an imposing stadium because the seats are like very close to the pitch and it's very vertical, so the fans are like right on top of the players.
Wait, are we playing away tomorrow or are we playing at home?
We're playing away, so the players have already landed in Braga.
No, okay. Wow, actually, wow, this is. I never actually knew this until now, man. That's a fantastic stadium, man.
Yeah, a lot of people say this is the most beautiful stadium in football. I thought the whole conversation was going to be about stadiums, because I thought, oh man, fuck Braga, they're not going to be interesting. But then I actually saw the highlights of the 3-2 win with Union Berlin, and they surprised me.
Yeah.
Did you catch that game as well? Do you have any takeaways?
Yeah, man, I saw the highlights, man. I just have to say, man, like they scored bangers on bangers, so it seems like they're really interested in shooting from outside the 18. So maybe that might be something that we wanna keep an eye on, definitely. And I think one thing for sure is that on the same the game against Union Berlin and also the game against Napoli earlier, it seems like it's gonna be a very interesting affair in the sense that it's gonna be a boring 0-0 draw.
Yeah, and these guys are no slouches at home. They have a really impressive win record at home. Although they do leak a lot of goals, which is like the only hope for me because just looking at their forward line, I feel like they can cause real damage to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that have you actually heard about this Bruma guy? It's the first time that I'm watching him play. I was looking at him. I think I saw 4 or 5 highlights of the previous Braga matches in the Portuguese league, but then he's always involved. He's like the guy who can pull something off miraculously and slot the ball in. He's not just a tricky player. He can actually like finish really well.
Yeah, man. I mean, Bruma was a player that played in Turkey for a very, extended period of time, for Galatasaray. So I really know him a lot. A lot of Turkish fans actually, love to hate and hate to love, Bruma because he was kind of a player that frustrated a lot. He was a player that had a lot of, how can I say that? He had a lot of promise without any output. It's a player that can beat everyone, but eventually there was no, output or consistency to his games. I think that was one of the things that, frustrated a lot of people in Turkey because he had 2 stints. If I'm not mistaken, he played for Galatasaray at first, and then he traveled back to PSV, and then he came back again to Fenerbahce, the rivals of Galatasaray. So, in Turkish football, actually, Bruma is a very, very, very well-known name. Honestly, a winger that has a lot of trickery and pace, but no end product in the end.
Did you actually catch the second goal that Braga scored against Union Berlin? From right outside the
Yeah,
box, the guy just curled it in,
exactly.
almost hit the post. It was a like inch perfect finish.
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's the thing. Like, a player like Bruma has the potential, for this kind of things. But then the question is about, that consistency that I mentioned, discipline there. But yeah, it was, almost as perfect as a shot as you can find.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about consistency, like Abel Ruiz was the main striker, right? And before the Union Berlin game, he was starting most games, and Banza, the other fast striker, let's say, was just coming off the bench. But then I feel like the manager has really found a working formula, and then since then, he's been playing these guys as the main starters, Bruma, Banza, and Diallo. And these guys can just, hit teams on the counter. Do you think our fullbacks are going to have an issue with that? Because we do have some fast
I think
defenders.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting. That be how we are able to deal with this. With the speed. The pace of these guys is going to be something that's training because eventually when when you go to this smaller teams, sometimes they just want to pack the bus and now bring the game to you, and because of that, you have the tendency of committing a lot of players forward, and then they hit you on the counter and stuff like that. So it just remains to see how the setup of Braha is going to be like. Are they going to try to look to hit us on the counter? Are they going to try to go toe to toe with us at their house? So it all depends on that. But the pace is something that would worry me because at the weekend we also saw how okay, although like we had some good moments with Carvalho as well, we also had some bad and ones as well. And on the other hand, like it was just all bad in my opinion, because I felt the left back was basically non-existent, against Sevilla, or rather, it was bypassed too easily. So I think, with the pace that these guys will pose, I think it's gonna be, a quite an interesting game to see. But then the point is, even if they beat with the pace, like, will they be able to eventually, deliver the crosses that into good positions as well? That's also another question entirely. So it's not just about beating the fullbacks alone.
Man, I don't think they're like they have too much height in their team. I don't think they're gonna cross much. It's all gonna be like cutbacks. I feel like our defenders are usually good at it, so I'm not too worried about crosses coming in. But I was just noticing, Farooq, you were describing Braga like, ah man, they're just gonna sit back and then take their moments, which is exactly. I was on the Barca subreddit, and then they were talking about the El Clasico, and then the main conversation was, these guys are gonna just bomb out a victory. That's the only way they win. They're not gonna dominate the game. We're gonna keep bring the game to them, but they have enough on the counter and with like the special abilities of Jude Bellingham to actually get the winner. Do you agree with that, or do you think we've been able to like dominate games here and there?
Nah, I mean that's one of the biggest issue I've always had is that like we are not able to dominate games. We're just able to win games based on the level of individual quality that we have that eventually shines through. I also just go back to I think there are just 3 games this year that actually you could look and say like okay, yeah, this was a complete team performance. This was a domination or something similar. It's against Napoli, Granada, and the game before Napoli as well. So like those are 3 games that you can just pinpoint out of 11, although it's a small sample size. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's they might just be right in that sense. Unfortunately, that's just what we're gonna do. We're just gonna, sit back, try to hit on the counter, and hope that Jude is here to finish something or Vinicius is here to finish something. But I don't think it's gonna be a complete domination from us or anything like that.
Mm. Well, I feel like we have to like really take our chances, and because Abel Ruiz, their former like starting striker, but he does like still feature for Spain as a sub. So he said, I met Carvajal and Joselu in September. We talked about the game. I told them it was going to be a fucked up game. We are very, very strong at home. Do you actually believe like this could be like one of those sheriff games or something like that?
Actually, I would have said no, but I will say yes to this question because of just the game that actually, that comes immediately after this game. So I think there is a very, very high tendency that, considering the result we had at the weekend as well, now, the team chasing you is basically a point behind you, and then now you're going to go and play them at their home. So, it's kind of your total, focus and attention will be just on that mammoth game at the weekend. So because of that, I think the distraction might maybe lead to a bit of loss of concentration for this game. So hence it can be one of those dangerous games that you really have to be careful about.
Mhm. Yeah, Hoke says he's in the comments. Hi, Hoke. He says Farooq for the win. And how do you get so many fans? I just don't understand.
It is what we do, man. It is what we do.
Ah,
We know we are in the entertainment business, so we have to entertain people, and by creating entertainment, eventually fans, we get fans to follow up. So yeah.
right. I have no comments, but anyways. Yeah, I mean, just talking about like the other parts that we can kind of exploit is that they have an aging backline. Jose Font, if you remember him from his Portugal days,
Yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
39
I
years
saw.
old. He's still leading their defensive line, although they do have some fast fullbacks at the moment. I feel like they leak a lot of goals, and similar to us, they ship a lot of goals from crosses. So if we can attack them from the wings, if Vinny and somehow Carvajal can also attack from the other wing, I feel like we will be able to score goals. However, I'm just gonna be wary of their counterattacks.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. That's very true. But I just feel like if we start with Joselo, I think that's gonna be a very good outlet because as you mentioned, when you have 18 center backs, eventually the pace that with which players like Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, and those guys move like it's gonna be too much for them. So I believe if we can exploit that weakness, I think it's something that can be really good for the team, especially if we play Joselu, if we have our wingers or fullbacks beating the first man and just delivering across, so it's going to be Joselu against one of their other centre backs, so it's going to be quite interesting to watch. And I do believe it's just going to be a very basketball-esque match, where there's just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hoke says Portuguese centre backs and playing at an advanced age. Name a better duo. Man,
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. Is Pepe 42 years old and is he still playing in the Champions League?
yeah, yeah. Pepe is there as well. There's
Is it
Fonte as well. I
is it
think that
probably the
is one.
nature of the league? Is it just that they're able to play so many games and because it's such a much slower pace, they're able to outlast uh, centre backs from like Spain or the EPL?
No, I think that also comes into play as well. But then it's not just that as well. We've seen the master classes from the centre backs. I think we had Pepe last year as well. Putting in master class after master class in the Champions League as well. So it's not just in the Portuguese league as well. We've seen even Pepe going, even Fonte as well going to the European Championship at a very advanced stage as well. So it's not just about about the league or lack thereof. It's just about the quality that of these players and what they continue to show.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like a good shifting point because you were mentioning Joselu, and then maybe we can, because they are aging, we could actually exploit their pace or slow pace of those center backs. Should we actually play Rodrigo for this one? I know you were really bashing on him in the post match, saying he's just not good enough at the moment. Maybe he just needs to be benched. But is the Braga game probably good for his confidence at the same time?
No, I think the question is like, who do you play Rodrigo instead of? That's the question. I think if you're gonna play Rodrigo instead of Joselu, I would say no, honestly. But then I think I touched on this in the past. Like, if we're looking to play all three of them together, I think it might be a very smart, idea, because that way at least Rodrigo gets that familiarity of that center forward presence that he was used to. Okay, yeah, obviously Joselu is not Benzema, but eventually, a nine is a nine. So he gets that familiarity of the presence of a nine. At least that gives him back, that level of assuredness or let's say confidence that he has that okay there is someone that you can play with. So that might be, but if the case is playing Joselu or Rodrigo, I'd rather go with Joselu at this point in time.
And I think it's just we live in a fantasy world if we think Carlo's going to switch back to a 4-3-3 and not play Jude at the center of the park.
That's true actually, but then I also think like maybe another thing might be to try Jude in a deeper position and give I don't know maybe Fede a rest and try to see if Rodrigo can play as a 10 or something like this. I mean it's just something to experiment with, like even if we don't want to go back to the 4-3-3, something like this. I don't know, but as you said, like I'm not optimistic. I don't think I will see that. I'm also aware of that, as you mentioned. Like that's not gonna happen, but it's just a man can hope. But eventually, yeah, like I think Joselu should start ahead of Rodrigo.
Yeah, with Carlo, I think that's the ideal like dialogue. A man can hope, but it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Should we head into the lineups then? I feel like this is gonna be a tricky one, but still it's gonna be the most fun part of the episode.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's gonna be quite interesting because I think other than Kepa starting in goal, I don't think we can mention. I think also because we don't have centre backs, we
We
also
don't have
just
center
can
backs.
we also almost can mention the name of the people that are gonna start. But I think from fullbacks to midfielders to attackers, I think maybe just Vinicius as well. I think Vini, Jude, and Kepa might be the three names that you might say like shoe-in starters. But other than that, I think every other name is up in the air. Maybe other than Rudiger as well.
I guess let's just start with the forward line, since there's just two players, let's avoid confusions. I'm gonna read out Hoke's comment first, just to get us started. So he says, I will always say that a striker always needs to start. Reminds me of our old debates from the 21-22 season, Farouk.
Yeah, I agree with more on this, but also I will also mention the fact that the base of I think he's talking about the fact that we argued about City not winning because they don't have a nine or something like that. But I will also argue about the fact that, in my opinion, I feel that the system was working without a striker for City. Like these are the guys who had gone, and won stuff. Even with Kun, they could not win the Champions League. Obviously Haaland is a very different prospect, but I think in our if we that's my at least my argument is that I feel like if we had a more tactically astute coach, he would still have found a way to play without a striker. But the point is, right now, with the kind of personnel we have in the dugout, the management of this team, I feel like the only way forward is for them to play in the traditional way, which is with a striker. But honestly, I think if you have a more tactically astute coach, I think there is a way to find to circumnavigate the lack of striker or lack thereof. But yeah, at this point in time, I would for sure say that, yeah, we need to play with a striker. But then back to that 21-22 argument, like I still stand by my point. Like I believe that, saying that City does not have a striker was the reason they lost, I think it's a very, very reductive, way of putting the story.
So you've drank the City Kool-Aid, yeah?
I mean, the point is they still didn't win the UCL without a striker, so
That's
eventually
true.
more can have a valid point in that sense. But we saw what Haaland has done to the team, and like they're up, yeah, it is what it is, man.
Right now, so City play with two strikers, Haaland and Julian Alvarez. That seems to be working
Yeah,
for them.
Alvarez is more of a 10. Alvarez is more of a 10, like, but then, yeah, obviously, he also occupies central spaces and all that. So, yeah, they play with two strikers, you can say, basically. Because, like, Haaland, what's he called? Like, Alvarez is basically trying to, fill the positions that you find De Bruyne normally. But, yeah, obviously, like, Alvarez is not De Bruyne. So, he also, kinds of interprets the role based on his own abilities as well. So, yeah, they play with two strikers.
Right. Hassan's here. He says, damn, I'm 20 minutes late. Hassan, I feel like you just hopped on at the right moment, because we're just heading into the lineups, the most fun part of the episode. So, yeah, still right
Yeah,
on time.
and as you know, as the saying goes, better late than never, man. Better
Exactly.
late than never.
All right, but of course, Vinny's going to start here. There's no other choice. And who is going to start? You said you would prefer Joselu, just to see Rodrigo set this one out, come off the bench, maybe score a goal, get his confidence back. That's what you're going to go for?
Yeah, I think that's just the thing, man. Like, there is no other way to, there is no other way to put it, man. There is no one else to play. It's just, Rodrigo out, Oselu in. That's just the thing, man. Honestly, at this point in time, there is no. I mean, I think there is no much to debate about it after you've seen all, what has happened with Rodrigo for the past couple of game weeks. Honestly, like I just feel like it's just only right to take him out of the firing line, and, have him have a reset and all that, and just and the thing is that we've seen that in those games that we've played really well, and I think as you mentioned at the weekend, it's that Joselu was a striker, Camavinga was a left back. That's one of the biggest at least difference we could see from, because basically it's the same, 9 players away from just these two positions, right?
Yep.
It was the same 9 players, but just these two positions were different, and that's why the game was different. So I think that's just the thing, like we have to see that at least for the betterment of the team, for at this point in time, this is what we need to do, and it's to play Jose.
I have a question for you. Do you think Joselu is more important for the setup, or is Camavinga the key piece?
I think Camavinga is the key piece.
Me
Because
too.
I believe that the way Camavinga understands and interprets the fullback role, honestly, it's so different than anything that these guys offer. I genuinely believe so. I think the ability of Camavinga to link up with the wingers, or rather fill the space or lack of the space that is there, and more importantly, the way he steps into the midfield together with Tony Cross, especially when he presses. I think there is a synergy there, on that left side of the midfield. The way he works with Tony Cross in that role. He becomes like those, I don't know what they call them, but those fullbacks that step into midfield like the Zinchenkos, or even at City we have the John Stones playing a fullback and becoming a midfielder. Trent as well, and so this is basically what he does. He does that role in that way, and I think the intelligence he has is just outrageous, honestly. So I think I totally agree with you that Kamavinga is the more important piece of the puzzle, in regards to Ozil as well.
Right. Hassan has a fun one. So he says, have you seen the surroundings of the Braga Stadium? One Valverde shot into the mountain and it's not looking good.
I mean, we need to have a lot of footballs there, because man, if Valverde starts shooting, man, balls are gonna become missing in the stadium. We need to have a lot and lot of them. I don't know. Maybe they have a net behind
They
this
don't.
goal that doesn't allow people
They
to
have
pop up.
nothing.
They don't, right? Wow, interesting,
I feel like
interesting.
in order to become a ball boy at the Braga Stadium, you need to be a professional mountain climber. And then while the game is going on, they'll send these guys up the mountain. They'll be taking the balls back.
Well, that's true, man. Imagine, a ball boy, you're looking for a professional hiker that, what's it called? Like the job requirement for the ball boy is you have to be a professional hiker. That way you just quickly grab the ball and come back. Otherwise, man, like it's not gonna be sustainable, man. They're gonna keep losing balls left, right, middle, center, man.
Yep. But yeah, so I guess we have our starting strikers. We really want to see Joselu up front, but maybe, because Ancelotti had a quote from the post match from Sevilla. He just said, Rodrigo played so good. He's not scoring in the goals, but he will soon. That's just basically what he said. And
Yeah, but that's the best thing about Carlo, is that he's not someone that will ever throw his players under the bus. If Carlo throws someone under the bus, then you know that they have more than deserve it. But I mean, anyone who has two eyes definitely knows that it's not just working for him right now. It's not working. It's not about lack of trying, but he tries, but it just doesn't work.
yep,
Unfortunately, that's the thing. That's the thing.
just not sharp enough or good enough at the exact moment when it actually matters.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right, let's head into the midfield. Obviously, Jude is going to start. If Kamavinga starts, he's going to play a bit more towards the left, which is good for the team, good for the build-up, good for Vinicius.
I actually think Camavinga starts in the middle of the park. I think because the thing is that he's gonna say, okay, like it's a game against Praha away. Maybe he wants to start Fran as a fullback or something like that. But I think Camavinga starts in the middle of the park. In my opinion, I think also Luka Modric starts this one. So I think this is a game that we see Toni Kroos out of the team, or maybe even Tchouaméni out of the team. I'm not sure who's gonna be there.
Many out of the team. Wow,
But I think,
that scares me.
yeah, I mean, I think there is already a perfect alibi that we have a Clasico at the weekend, so we want to take these guys out. So I think Freddy and Tchouaméni or Kroos. I think Freddy is out. I think, in my opinion, and I think Kroos or Tchouaméni, one of them also is going to be out. In comes Camavinga and Modric. I think. I don't know what's your take on that.
I think Modric is going to start for sure. I think Camavinga, he's going to play in left back. I feel like he's got to get a bit more warmed up for the Clasico because for sure he's going to be playing left back at the Clasico if we have to get anything out of the game. With that in mind, I think a midfield slot is still open. It's going to be either Valverde or Cruz who's going to start.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Kroos starts as well, honestly, but I actually kind of feel like, we have Jude, if you have Modric, because they already formed you need four midfielders, right? Jude, Modric, Camavinga, right? And then we need one more, which is either Fede or Rodrigo. Sorry, not Rodrigo. Fede or Tchouaméni. So I think, Tchouaméni getting the rest or Kroos getting the rest. Interesting.
I don't think Cruz needs a rest. He just came back from an extended international break. I feel like he needs his game to be totally warmed up. I wouldn't rest Cruz.
Yeah,
Maybe Modric can come on to rest Valverde. Xiaomeni probably needs a rest. Maybe Kamavinga starts there.
I see.
So it's Cruz and Modric time, yeah?
Yeah, Cruz and Modric time. Cruz and Modric time.
Okay, we have some more comments. Hassan says, have you heard the news that we're apparently negotiating a new deal with Carlo? I nearly fainted
Okay,
when I
what the
read.
fuck? No, come on, man. Stop messing. Don't no, don't make this kind of jokes, man. Come on, guys.
It's not a joke, Farooq. I did see that too.
Nah. Please don't make this kind of jokes, man. Come on, please don't do this to me, man. Come on, don't make this kind of
You know the
jokes.
worst part of this Relevo, or like I don't know which news outlet it is. They're always pushing for the Xabi Alonso agenda, and they got me all like super excited already. And then when I hear news like, oh man, just still gonna see the old football again. No, nothing new with the same players. I just start to faint. But on the flip side, Farooq, if Carlo gets Mbappe or if Carlo gets Alphonso Davies at left back, do you think he's going to play? Finally, he's going to play some exciting football.
No, I just don't believe so. I just don't believe so.
There you go.
I mean, the point is that, see, again, like I will always reiterate this, Jacob. Like, Carlo is someone who's gonna win. Okay, he can win shit. But the question is that, do you want to keep winning just by having to go 3-0 down and then come back and 4-3 because your players are good, not because you have a system somewhere where you can, there is so much more to achieve with this team, in my opinion. So I just feel like, nah, like this is not just the way, man. I just feel like this is not just the way.
I
In
agree.
my
I
opinion, I
feel
just feel
like
like
we
it's
need
not
a total refresh as well, especially when we get those two new guys in. We need someone who knows their shit.
Yeah, and who knows this shit? Are you saying Carlo doesn't know his shit? I never said that. This is
Bro,
your words,
bro,
man. I didn't say this.
when it
This is
comes
all.
to implementing new styles and
These are your words, Jacob. My hands are in the air.
no, I don't think he knows the shit when it comes to like actually reinventing players. He has a track record of doing that, but I don't think this group of players he knows what to do with them. I don't think that. I don't think so.
Yeah, man. Anyways, man, I think I just feel like we're gonna win a trophy again, and then shit like City happens, and then we win another trophy, and then shit like City happens. So the question is like, do you want to go into games and just be, second fiddle in every instance? So that's the question that we have to ask honestly. But
Okay.
yeah, man.
And Tas Saliba says, "Hello, I missed a couple of shows. Do you guys think that Rodrigo is adapting to the formation, or is his ceiling is just that? Same for Vinny, troubling adapting to the new position as a center for, I mean, as a forward. So pretty much Bale and Ronaldo rotated.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like actually, like the point is, as Stas is saying, like is it about the ceiling or is it about adaptation? But the question is that Vini basically was the best left winger last year. All of a sudden he's been asked to play a center forward role. So I feel like that on its own says a lot. Like I think it's very very unfair to him. It's not about having a ceiling or lack thereof. It's just about the fact that this is someone that struggled so hard, to establish himself as the best left winger in the world, and all of a sudden you're asking him to do something different, to play a different role. And you're not even asking him to play that role with another striker, you're asking him to play that role with another person who is also learning to play that role. So it's just basically you have, two learners trying to figure something out. So I just feel like because of that reason, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say it's about an issue of a ceiling, but rather just, they haven't adapted to that role. I just feel like they haven't adapted to that role. And the question is that will they adapt to the role? That's even the bigger question here.
For me, I'm not sure about Rodrigo. I don't think if he's like the main striker, if he has to play target man, that's not Rodrigo. But for Vinny, uh, I actually don't mind him playing the left forward role. You know why? Because if he's like, it depends on the system. If he's getting the ball with his back behind the goal, that is not the place we want him to play. But if he's like picking it up from the left half space, cutting in, I feel like he can be even more dangerous than as a left winger, possibly. We still don't know yet, but right now, as we see it, Carlos like not using Vinny that way.
Yeah, that's the thing about, again, about, it's about utilization, and also it's about, as you mentioned, are you getting the ball with your back to goal, or are you getting the ball and attacking those half spaces? But when you're playing together with Rodrigo, like, definitely one of you guys have to get the ball, with your back to goal. This is a problem, That's why if he was playing with, I don't know, let's say if he's given a chance to play with Jose, obviously Jose is not, the elite guy, but I mean, this is what you have, so you just have to use him as a nine. Again, a nine is a nine. So that way, at least, you might say that, okay, like, Jose is going to do that dirty job of getting the ball, as Kylian Mbappe says, the anchor. He's going to be the anchor, and then he just, Vini has to exploit those half spaces and, come in. But that's the thing. But when you're playing with Rodrigo, it offers you something different. And as you rightly mentioned, right now we aren't seeing a lot of that, at least not yet.
Yep. And Roba Lindbergh is here in the chat. He says, unfortunately, Rodrigo is out of form. He gets the shots but doesn't seem to improve. I would go with Brahim or Joselu as the starter. Would you actually do that? Would you start Brahim instead of
No, I think Brian well, that also just tells you, the level that Rodrigo has, that he's so out of form, that's the level of the form that he currently is at. But I think, Brahim is a bit of a stretch. I would say I would rather, because also Brahim is not a known entity, and as a number nine, as also, you're basically just repeating the same thing you try to do with Rodrigo. It's just, you find someone who is not a known entity and you try to experiment with him in that, in that position that he's not used to. So I think Joselu is just the best option for that. Brahim, yeah, a shout for replacing Jude, or maybe win a deeper role in the midfield. But I think to replace Rodrigo as a nine, I think it's a bit of a stretch.
I wanted to take this question, Farooq. So Tasaliba says, I saw Xabi Alonso's tactics. He basically uses two midfielders. How are you going to implement Tchouameni, Jude, and Camavinga?
He basically uses two midfielders. That's a very interesting question. I don't know. He has four midfielders. He has to find a way to figure it out to just shoehorn all four of them into the middle of the pitch, or at least three of them.
I mean, unless he decides Camavinga, like if you want to start, you just have to play left back. You have no choice.
But does Xavi use two midfielders? I think Xavi uses a double pivot, not two midfielders, though. Like, he uses a double pivot, if I'm not mistaken, which is Granit Xhaka and whoever the other person is. But
so there's always someone playing in front of them?
Yeah, there's someone playing in front of them.
Okay, yeah, that could work.
I don't think he uses, when you say two midfielders, he uses two deep line midfielders, but I don't think he uses just two midfielders as a whole.
Right. Yeah, and for sure, like some of these guys have to sit out at some points. It's either gonna be Valverde, Jude, and these guys.
But wait. Actually, he uses Xavi actually plays with the what's it called, with the 3-4-3 system, if I'm not mistaken, with the likes of Frimpongs on the wing and all that shit, right? So yeah, I think he might be right. Yeah, it's a 3-4-3 actually.
And Julian Wirtz
it's
playing in front of
Wirtz. Yeah, but Florian Wirtz is a number 10, no, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's exactly the point. That's the point. Yeah, exactly. So he uses a 10. So it's, he plays with a double pivot. So I think Jude is basically what that is. As at least that's what they want to mold Jude into. It's going to be that player that plays in front of the two pivots. So yeah, it's fine. But also, like, is he going to come to Real Madrid and play with the 3-man back line? That's something else. I don't know. Like, will the 3-4-2 or the 3-5-1 work at Real Madrid? That's a question that he has to ask as well, because I don't think that brings out the best. At least right now in the current setup, I don't think that brings out the best of in the players, because you're playing three centre backs. Who are the three centre backs that you have?
Yeah.
So this is the question. You play three centre backs. Who are the three centre backs you have? You need full backs for to carry out this tactics of a 3-5-2 or a 3 whatever it is, 3-4 3-4-3 or however it is. You need those fullbacks, and do we have those fullbacks as well? I don't think so. I don't think we have the kind of fullbacks that are required to do that. So I don't think he comes to Real and play the 3-4-3. I think he's gonna play a more 4-3-3 kind of formation, I think. But I don't think he plays.
Yeah, I think definitely he likes his wing play, so definitely two wingers again.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a fun segment. We spoke a lot of hypotheticals, but those things aren't happening anytime soon. So let's get back to defense. I know we discussed the forward line of Joselu, Vinicius, and then in the midfield, maybe we could see both Cruz and Modric starting, or it's gonna be Camavinga in midfield, and then Tchouaméni sits this one out, as well as Valverde. So let's go to the back line for
As
the.
well as Valverde, or as well as Jude.
So it's good, yeah.
As well as Jude, right? So we're having a midfield of Jude, Cruz, Modric, and Kama then. Most likely. And that will be interesting. That will be interesting. I
So
would.
that
Well,
automatically means does Fran Garcia get us start at the left back position, or is it going to be Mendy?
actually, I think Mendy is gonna start because he's gonna. I think. Sorry. I think Mendy is gonna start at the weekend, but I think Fran is gonna start this game because I think he's gonna
Really,
want
you
to play
really
Mendy
think
against
Camavinga is not going
Barcelona.
to start in left back in the weekend? I feel like we need every bit of help, progressing the ball out from Barca's press.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not about what we need; it's what about what Carlo will do. That's the thing.
Bro, he has played Camavinga at left back in all the important games this season. Girona, Napoli, those were the two important ones.
Well, I hope for our sake, I hope for our sake that's the case, man. But I'm not too sure if it's gonna be like that or like thereof. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I would say that then. I just feel like Fran is gonna start this game. I feel like it's gonna be a Fran game, irrespective of what happens at the weekend or what doesn't happen at the weekend. I think it's gonna be a Fran game. I
Right?
think it's gonna be Fran Garcia, and I think it's gonna be a game for Nacho as well.
Nacho instead of Alaba or Rudiger? Because Rudiger has played majority of our games. He hasn't had any kind of rest. He's been playing international games as well with no rest.
Yeah, I think Nacho plays in place of Alaba and Rudiger stays because I think Alaba might also need because he's just back from injury as well, so maybe you don't want to push the limits in that case.
Man, our
So
centre
I
back
think
position is fucked. How long can Rudiger keep this up? Especially if he has to run behind these like fast forwards all throughout the game. He's not going to be fresh for Barcelona. Hopefully he has it in his tank until we can give him some rest.
I mean the point is these players eventually like that's what they live for playing week in week out midweek weekend. But obviously I get your point that eventually there's a limit physically that to what a player can take. But you're totally right. Considering like Germany had to go to the US for the international break as well, and then back to Europe, and then this and that. So yeah, maybe it might be time to give Rudiger as well a rest. But then the point is, as I mentioned earlier, like it's the lack of centre backs, the lack of depth that is there, honestly, because Alaba is just coming back from an injury. You also don't want to push the limit with him and he re-aggravating the injury or something like that. So maybe you want to just continue hoping for the best with Tony Rudiger and see how it goes from there.
The same with Carvajal as well, right? He's been playing a lot of games. Touch wood, he's still
Yeah,
super
this is
healthy.
this is the game for the Lord, man. Like this is the game for Lord Vasquez, man. I think this is one of the games that Lucas Vasquez should come in and be able to deputize. I know that it's gonna have a difficult time with Bruma as well, but it is it is what it is. Like it's just one of those games that hopefully you suffer a bit, you do well a bit, you suffer a bit, and you do well a bit as well.
Right.
Let's see, man.
Let's
But
hope
I
so.
believe
Carlo
like
Ancelotti is speaking right now in the press conference. Maybe we'll get something out before we end the podcast. But yeah, let's see. Let's keep an eye on that. And before, of course, I guess we wrap that up. I would totally agree with Lucas Vasquez playing at right back as well. And then, of course, we only have one option in goal, Kepa. But before we wind up, let's take a couple more comments. So Mo said multiple options, not even 100% sure that Ancelotti will be gone after the season. It's too early right now anyway to definitely name names. Yeah, man, it's just too early. But right now with the football we've seen, a Real Madrid fan can hope. That's all I can say.
yeah, exactly.
And Tas Alibaba says Jacob, he plays. So Xabi Alonso plays with three defenders, two wing backs, two central midfielders, two wingers, and a striker. Please elaborate on that Xavi's tactics, or am I mistaken? If Florian Wirtz is playing, I feel like We're missing something here, right?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. Like like it's two CMs, two wingers. But the point is, like, he plays like he even.
Farooq, can you hold on? Fuck. It's just that Sunil called in between that fucked up my mic. Sorry, not my mic, my speakers. Need to reconnect. Yeah, and maybe you can take the next comment as well while I get my thing ready.
Now connected to Jacob's PC.
Fuck. Wait, hold on. Okay, man, go ahead. Say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about the Tasaribas. You said he mentioned about the fact that it's two wing backs, two wingers, and two CMs as well. So actually, I think the point is that the wingers are more of inverted wingers rather than the natural wingers. So I think it's more of like two tens rather than two 7 and 11s. Because if I'm not mistaken, Florian Wirtz is more of a cam than a natural winger. Hoffman also something similar as also he plays like an inverted. It's like having two tens and the wing backs are basically your wing outlets. Well, I'm not too familiar with what he's doing out there, but I'm just saying based on the formations I've seen with this 3-5-1 formation, right? This 3-5-2 formation or three. What is it? 3-4-3 formation, rather. Sorry, the 3-4-3 formation. So it's basically you have two wing-backs who serves as your wingers, and then you have two inverted, number 10s. This is something that actually, because I remember very well, even when Conte was doing this at Chelsea as well. Like Marcos Alonso and Victor Moses were like the wingers and the wing backs at the same time, but Hazard and Willian or Pedro were actually becoming more of central, like two camps. That was what they were doing. They were more of like camps than midfielders. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Like it's not about the fact that he plays with two wingers because his wing backs actually, the two wing backs actually serve as the width of the team. So those two people you see behind the strikers, they are not actually wingers. They are more of as the term goes, inverted wingers. They are more like partial number 10s, you might say. So that's the thing. So that's why I feel like when in that kind of system, like actually a player like I think that's a system that you can have a player like Jude play. Actually, you can have a player like Jude play that role, and maybe even Vinicius as well. But I don't think I don't think what's it called. I don't think you need them to play on the wing. You need them to play inside the I don't know, inside the central spaces just behind the striker actually.
Right. I don't know enough to comment on this, but yeah, I'm gonna be on the lookout just so I'm like learned and ready for these questions for the next pod. Yeah. Anyways, I feel like we wrapped up our lineups. Let's just go to the predictions then. Wrap this up.
Predictions. Yeah. I think it's gonna be one of those interesting games where it's basically basketball. So I'm gonna say similar to what they had against Naples. Against Union Berlin. I'm gonna say it's also gonna be a 3-2.
3-2. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of goals in this game as well. I predict a 4-2, just because I just don't trust ourselves at this moment to actually keep any kind of clean sheet, especially if we are gonna be starting Nacho or start Lucas Vasquez, just to give these guys some rest. If God forbid, Fran Garcia starts and he has a howler of a game, again, that's just we're gonna go 2 goals down.
I see.
Right. Farooq, actually, can you do the outro for this one? I am not 100%
Actually, I
confident about
just
my mic.
we can. Okay, we can just talk about what's he called Ancelotti's comments. I saw some of them as well. It's they were asking about rotations ahead of the Clasico. He said no, but I want to use the same XI we use against Sevilla. I have to evaluate the players who are tired after the break. Some took knocks against Sevilla, so we will see. So basically, he's also saying we have not talked about El Clasico yet. We are focusing on tomorrow's game, the most important right now. So basically, he's saying like they're not gonna they're not gonna disrespect. As he said again, I can just add one more quote for him. He says, "We respect our rivals. We know they attack very well. They score a lot. We are confident ahead of tomorrow game, but we have maximum respect for the rival." So basically, Carlos is just preaching the fact that he's not gonna rest players for the Clasico, but then again he also says like he's not gonna start the same 11. So he's kind of contradicting himself in that place. That some players are tired, some players took knock after the international break, and what is not. So basically he's just saying in a polite way, I'm gonna rest players, but I'm not gonna rest players. So that's what Carlo does, the gentleman. And then he also mentions about the fact that they haven't talked about the Clasico. I don't know who he's deceiving with that, but then we're just gonna take that for face value as well. We're just gonna take that for face value as well, man. I don't know. Do you actually genuinely believe that they haven't discussed about the Clasico?
Yeah, yeah. Do we have any more comments of interest now?
Okay, I guess if we don't have any comments, we can just call it a wrap, Jacob, if you're good to go. Okay, then let's do some house cleaning. We start by, firstly thanking our partners at Real Madrid Committee. They've been there throughout the journey. You can just check out their Instagram page and the links below. They have some really, really good content about Real Madrid. And also we want to thank, all of our listeners and followers, for their votes, in the recently concluded, football content award. So hopefully we will get the results sometime next month. Hopefully, we can at least make the podium. But irrespective, whatever happens, we really do appreciate, the effort of what you guys have put in through. And also, the people in the chat, I think I remember Mo was there, Sunaid was there, Tas was there. If I'm not mistaken, Ashik was there as well. Hassan, you mentioned, was there. I hope I did, everyone that's there, we really do appreciate you guys keeping us, company, because eventually, when we have this back and forth with you guys, it's really interesting, especially, the Xavi Alonso one. So thank you guys for engaging us. And if you're new here as well, just hit the like button, drop a comment, whatever you think, feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback, eventually, that's why we're here, just that can help improve the quality of, what we do and what we don't do, because eventually, without you guys, basically, we're doing nothing. So, just hit the like and subscribe button. And also, on the audio platforms, you guys are the bomb, as well. Like, it's been a blast, with the podcasting platforms as well. So, we really do appreciate it. And if you do get the time, we're always live on YouTube as well. You can come and join, the back and forth as well. Your voice, you can make your voice heard as well. And with that, I hope for, a very good game tomorrow evening. And I sign out by saying Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid.